Be honest. Are you using apps like DoorDash, Uber, or Instacart, maybe freelancing on the side, or using AI as a hustle, and somehow your bank account still looks the same every month? Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this yet, but there is a thing called side hustle inflation, and it is very real. Welcome to the phenomenal Charlie Black Finance, Freedom, and the Mindset to Move. If this is your lane, please hit the subscribe button below, like, share, and comment. In 2025, you may have to work twice as hard to try to make progress and somehow still feel like you're not getting ahead. So today, I'm going to break down why side hustles now pay less, the hidden traps no one talks about, and how to build a real supplemental income buffer that actually moves you forward and not backward. Okay. So let's say you're using an app like DoorDash, Seamless, Postmates, Uber, or one of those apps that people use on the side to make money. Unfortunately, you're not the only person that's thinking the same way. As a result, especially if you live in a major city, there are more drivers on the road than ever. For example, if you live in a place like New York City, maybe LA, you can notice that almost 80%, maybe even higher, of all the cars driving will be TLC, Ubers, Lyfts, taxis, etc. And because of that, due to the massive amount of people using the same service versus the limited amount of pickups you can do, the pay based on the app is now lower. There are also higher acceptance requirements, fewer bonuses, and customers are generally now tipping less. Again, people who aren't making as much money as before generally keep their money a little bit more conservatively versus people that are having the time of their lives. Also, route optimization, it mostly benefits the platform, not the driver. So, if you are someone that's familiar with the areas you work in on the side, you may know a route better than what your app is showing you. And that can sometimes conflict with the amount of work you get versus the amount of time you have waiting for an extra job, whether it's delivering food or picking up a passenger. As a result, a lot of companies have now decided to go the route of AI. As such, AI freelancing is now becoming more and more mainstream. What does this mean? Well, it means that people aren't just delivering food anymore. They are now also doing something called AI assisted work. So, again, while you can still use ride shares to pick people up, whether it's Uber or Lyft or delivering people's food like DoorDash, Seamless, Postmates, etc., people have also discovered the importance of learning how to use AI. Now, what does this mean? It means using AI to help people on their own path to being able to get a job, whether it's something like AI resume editing, maybe it's people just using AI in general to create content on platforms like YouTube or social media. You've seen a lot of the videos if you go on TikTok, things that don't even look real, like animals interacting with each other or people doing some crazy things. That would be AI generated content. People are also using AI as graphic design. They are also learning how to talk to AI to be able to get AI to do the things they want, such as AI prompt engineering, where they have learned how to specifically tailor a command to AI to be able to get either the information they need instantly or at least be able to put AI on the path that they want. And of course, micro automation services or using AI as a chatbot, which some people can use in replacement to something like a therapist or someone that can give great advice, something that can be used as a replacement for wisdom, etc. Now, the great thing about the surge of AI would be that it pays more and it technically is scaling better. So again, while people may not be spending as much money on DoorDash, especially as we get towards the holiday seasons, or even because they're being a little bit more conservative with the high rising costs of DoorDash, the high rising costs of gasoline, depending on where you live, people aren't using it as much. But AI is used in almost every industry, especially nowadays with startups. So again, that means that a lot of people are trying to learn and be ahead of the curve of how to use AI, talk to AI, and use AI for their benefit. So, how does that work now as a side hustle? Well, that's how you would now combine your soft skills, skills like critical thinking, active listening, or even learning how to fix puzzles. You combine it with the tools of AI and create your own special brand. Now, that doesn't mean that the AI will replace you, but if you're not also following the trend and getting better at what you do, someone else who uses AI can potentially replace you one day. So, what would side hustle inflation be? Well, it means your effort is staying the same, or maybe your effort is even rising, but the money is going down. And if the money is going down and your expenses are going up, your profit margin will now shrink. For example, a DoorDash order could potentially cost $20 now, but it could have been $12 in like 5 years ago. Potentially, as the DoorDash delivery person, you're making about $7 to $8. Now, an Uber ride, on the other hand, that could have made $18 in the same time is now paying between $13 to $14. Now, of course, the numbers may not seem so bad, like you're $4 off now than you were then, but again, this is per ride, which means the lower the ride, the less you get. Even if there's a higher yield for a ride, like you're now making 30, 40, you're still making less than what you did years ago. And of course, potentially, if you're not using AI, but let's say you're a freelance writer or a freelance graphic designer, a job that could have paid $100 or more now have a lot more people applying for that same job. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do a side hustle. You just have to realize the market is shifting. And as such, in 2025, research has shown us that there are a lot of things people don't want to admit, generally because they don't want to feel deflated or they don't want their side hustle to be inflated even more. But most side hustles that people generally use, like gig driving, and again, using an app, is like $10 to $18 an hour. Again, that could be higher than minimum wage, but you have to take into consideration things like gas, wear and tear of your vehicle. Is it electric? Is it um, an ICE vehicle? In other words, internal combustion engine. How much miles are on your vehicle, your tires, the conditions of the road, the conditions of your climate. So 10 to 18 can actually drop further depending on the expenses you need to pay to keep your car maintained. But if you use a computer, a tablet, some sort of device to do freelance work, you might be looking at 15 to 25 an hour. Where again, on a side business, it's not that bad, but it all depends on your effort. If you're working harder in your side hustle than you're working on your main job, it might not be worth it. But the good news is, for now at least, you could potentially make $40 to $80 an hour for hybrid AI assisted freelance work. Problem is, if you use AI alone to write things like blogs for people, at some point they're going to realize they're paying $40, $80 for something that they believe they can do themselves for free. At that point, now you've lost your advantage and people aren't paying you for your writing skill. They're paying you again for your prompt engineering skills. Those are things you would have to be upfront about. Otherwise, not only can you lose your side gig, but they can eventually give you a bad review or spread the word that you're basically siphoning more money for something you're not actually doing. Or potentially you can even make $100 to $300 per project for configuring micro automations. Businesses generally want to make a lot of their processes faster. You can assist them with that when it comes to automations. The problem with automation is that it then becomes harder to justify salaries. If a software can do something a person can do faster and streamlining that process to become something that they can implement, you might have cost someone a job. Now, you might have received a payment for that implementation, but you could have potentially cost someone their salary. But again, you don't make any money until you do the job. That does include using AI as well and understanding how AI works, because at some point, people can also think, I can use AI to replace you, whether you're using it or not. So, the key takeaway would be the scale of your work. If you're trading hours for dollars forever, you're always going to feel potentially mentally drained, physically drained, and thus you'll start making mistakes, or you may not want to continue doing what you're doing anymore. It's not worth it. However, efficiency is always king. If you're driving, whether it's Uber, Lyft, or any of those ride shares, you know when peak hours can be. You know when a lot of people are looking for a ride. You know if it's there's like a rush hour in your city, or if you know that people are a little bit more spread out, it's more suburban or it's more rural. You know you may not be able to make money there, so you may have to go into the city, spend a day, even if it's your day off, to try to make a side hustle. And again, knowing that you're going to be making less money today than you likely were making years ago, it does not mean it's still not money you're making. But that's when you have to sometimes think long term. What does that mean? Just like when you have a short term expense and you need a little buffer, like you need the cash to be able to pay for an expense while also covering certain things. That's what a long term supplemental income buffer would be. So, again, that buffer would be 1 month of your side hustle income, but placed in a separate account. Not your checking account, not your savings account, not your investment account if you have one. Just a separate account. You could even name it on apps. A lot of apps allow you to change your name or give a nickname to bank account. And you could say side hustle account if you want that, or what the side hustle is for. You could say something like variable income or whatever puts you at ease of mind to know what the account is for. That will also allow you, with a month of that income, to protect you from a slow day. You might be sitting waiting for a ride to pick someone up for an hour. Somebody, if it's not lunchtime, maybe DoorDash isn't as frequent. Maybe you have to go in the evening, so you lost all day, or there could be an income drought. There's more people driving than ever. And depending on some apps, it favors newer drivers and older ones, even though generally in most industries, that seniority is king. Or there could be an app change. They might be giving you less money. They might be taking more revenue or giving you a lower percentage. Or it could be something like using a car repair. You have to change your tires. You need oil now replaced more frequently. The windshield wiper fluid needs to be replenished. Your antifreeze, your freon. These are things that are potential expenses because of the fact that you're using your vehicle more frequently. Also, more trips to the gas station. Or if you use an electric vehicle, more trips to the charging station. And that means you might have to spend 20 to 30, even an hour, minutes, of course, to an hour, that you're waiting to have your vehicle charged. Or potentially the algorithm changes on an app or on a search engine, whether it's something like Google. And now you're not coming up with as much work as you did before. Now, of course, side hustles are usually for independent contractors, and that gives you a 1099. So just remember, all supplemental income, depending on how you're getting paid, you will need to pay taxes at the end of the year. So you do not want to spend all your money. You can even create a fourth account that's only for taxes that would take a percentage of all the money you make. And that's how much you're making in the side hustle. It might feel even more like I would say indifferent to look at your money going more and more. But it's better to have money on the side that you may have to pay than think you're making all this money on your side hustle. And then come tax time, you have a huge burden that you have to pay. It's always better to prepare. And if you have to pay less than you thought, then that's even more money in your pocket rather than think you have all this money that you actually don't. So, again, the buffer can be for not only a month of your supplemental income, but also to put money each time towards taxes. So again, let's give you a quick 3 month playbook. First, you want to list all of your income sources, whether it's your full time job, whether you have two part times, whether you have an income based off of a full time job and a side hustle. Maybe you're interested in getting a side hustle. But as of now, just list what you make, list what you spend. That's an essential expense. Like how people know the term essential workers, paying a roof over your head, paying for your car, paying for food, paying for a family, paying for animals, etc. Then what you want to do again is have that side income buffer account that you know you're going to keep a month of. So that first month that you're making your side hustle, you don't touch that money at all. Then you build from that. And of course, you can also take outside of those taxes you have to set aside about 10% of the money you'd make and put it just in that account. You can take the rest of it, whether it's 30, 40, 50%, and now you can put that into your normal checking or savings account to use. You just want to make sure that both accounts are always being touched, money aside from taxes, supplemental income, whatever is left over. Then, of course, that being first week, it is building up the understanding of what you'll need. Weeks 2 to 4, you can always add things are getting better. Again, making sure you're not overestimating. You could increase your percentages, adding 1% now of that supplemental income towards saving. Or you can change your side hustle. Maybe you're going to move away from ride sharing towards AI prompt engineering, or modeling yourself towards using something like social media, trying to become more involved with creating social media, changing posts or editing photos, editing videos for YouTube creators, etc. You can always do these things. Getting not only a name for yourself because you might be able to edit moderately big channels coming up. They can then vouch for you, or you can put it on your resume and people can see videos you edited versus videos you didn't. Big time editors might be able to ask you to edit their shorts, maybe edit a few videos if someone's on vacation, or just give you a referral to someone else. As such, you can now create an hourly rate or even a projection rate based on the project. And you can increase the amount, especially if you're doing bigger and bigger videos, or you're editing bigger and bigger channels, because they will, depending on your skill, pay for that. They have no problem giving you like 500 a video that they edit, because the revenue they're going to make is going to eclipse the editing. And they know through your editing, they might even get more views. As such, you can create an hourly rate for yourself and give that over to people and increase it incrementally depending on who you're editing for, if that is one of your side hustles. Now, you can't do that with things like rideshare. Your rate is already locked. But these are things if you wanted to improve upon the model for yourself. Again, of course, you can learn AI. You can test one of the AI based freelance skills. You don't want to do something like unethical, like sell college papers to people. That's just AI, because those companies or schools can determine if something was AI based. And of course, now people are coming for you because you sold them something that can be considered someone else's work or AI based. Now, of course, always taking courses, especially if they're free, like Excel or Google Sheets, things of that nature, so that you can help people or become an endorsement on something like LinkedIn. So again, when you're doing a side hustle and your name is now involved, people can find you on social media and see that you're endorsed on certain softwares. Of course, the more endorsements or the more practice you have, you keep increasing your rates until you know that something is functional. You can also adjust your rates based off of who's asking. You can potentially charge someone more if they have a huge channel, but also charge someone less. Experience is never going to be something that you're going to lose. The more experience you have, the better. Again, when you're targeting now a different audience, you can justify why your rates are so high, because you have a portfolio of art, or you have several videos you can show you worked on, and they can see how well that video did, because all of those metrics are public. Now, again, by the third month, you're building your skills, or even several months in, You now reviewing all the work you've done. You can identify your highest return on investment income. Again, you can build from one to the other. Again, this is side hustling, but some side hustles can become your main source of income. You just have to think years in advance. Do I want to do this for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15? Can I go now and take my side hustle, transition into an industry that can become your main source of income while keeping your side hustle? Can you go and create your own company? Can you join a startup? Those are things you would want to think about as well from third month and keep going in that path. You can also drop your lowest return on investment income source. Maybe AI is being flooded. You drop it. Now you're using your skills or you're using a combination of both. You want to increase your automation again as much as you can, whether that's um, creating a website where people can go and request your services so you don't have to immediately go and find out whether or not you have to discuss rates or how long it takes a project to complete. They'll know if they contract your services, it will take a week. They can give you 5 videos. They're going to pay you 5 videos. You'll edit 5 videos, one a day, send it to them when they're complete. They can schedule how those videos go. Most people, unless there's like current events, schedule videos in advance anyway. Of course, now during this whole time, you're going to be again increasing that income, increasing that buffer, and hopefully you have developed a more profitable hustle. Maybe now you even see a more realistic picture of what your time is worth. Hopefully your stress levels have dropped. So again, giving a real example here, let's say potentially you make 600 a month doing DoorDash. Again, these are all pre-tax. Let's say you also went the route of AI freelancing, you made another 300 off that. Let's say doing random stuff like um, some people like car detailing or yard work, etc. You made 150. So in that month, again, adding 600, 300 is nine. Nine plus 150 is 1050. You made 1050. Now, if you want to automate 15% to that account, that's $157 going into your buffer. Now, in 6 months, if that kept happening, you almost have $1,000 set aside just for that buffer, just from automation. That's 15%. Again, you can always increase the percentage. Again, from tax, at some point, you can even put all of it into a second account and use that account for certain expenses. Again, so long as you're paying taxes, it does not matter what else you want to take that money into. You can try to invest it. You can go into the stock market. You can go to crypto, whatever you want to do. That's money you're just playing with at that point in time. Again, you know, if you're ride sharing, that's going to be stable depending on where you live. Maybe not as stable as time progresses, but you know exactly how much you're going to make per ride. Now, AI, that can scale as well, depending on how many people learn how to use prompts, depending on where you are, how far ahead you are of people. And your buffer, again, is constantly growing because the more you do, the more you make. And 15% of one number just keeps getting higher as the number gets higher. So, again, just to recap, we now have potentially 4 accounts: main checking, main savings, investment in the sense of this is your supplemental income account, and potentially one for taxes that you never touch. And you know exactly where that money's going to go to. Now, of course, you've now created automatic transfers, whether it's 15% into one account, 30% into another for taxes. We know that those accounts are going to already be set up as soon as you get the money, as soon as you get the cash. Because you know, when people ask you for whether it's a transfer, whether it's direct deposit, this is the bank account. It's going to go 10%, 15% here, 30% there, and the rest wherever you would like it to go. Write down every side hustle that you do. Again, you can have AI help you with that, tracking how much you made per app, tracking how much you worked that week or that month, and find out what's the best way or what's the best time or activity that you can do to maximize the amount that you make on the side. And of course, focus on that one. Which hustle makes you the most per hour? Maybe the second one. And also, which one is the less stressful for you to do? Whether you know that it's something you can do long term or whether it's something you can grow in and become better at. Focus on those See which one scales. That's the one you want to grow. See which one's stable. That's the one you want to also keep doing. And as a result, you're able to not only benefit yourself in the present, but also in the future. Please share it with anyone that's trying to grind on a side hustle themselves, create a second income, or just need help in seeing how they can grow automation or how to make more money on the side. Because I know people say this a lot, but if you do really want financial freedom, then you're going to have to learn how to set yourself aside from working for your money by doing something you don't want and seeing your money grow by doing something you would like.